the radiation from Wi-Fi, for some reason, is harder for the body to tolerate than other sources of microwave radiation. And we try to understand why it is. There was a study by a very famous scientist in Germany, his name is Professor von Klitzing, and he tested about 100 people who suffer from electrosensitivity. And what they noticed was that people were reacting physiologically to Wi-Fi in levels that were 50 times and more lower than those emitted by cordless phones and cell phones. So what it told us is that there's something in the modulation of the Wi-Fi that is harder for the body to tolerate than other sources of microwave radiation, which are also hard for the body to tolerate. And the explanation he came with, and it's actually, we use it in an affidavit in the Supreme Court, was one of the things that the Wi-Fi does. I'll explain. If you look at your cell phone, it tells you there's like, right now there are 10 Wi-Fi networks available. So how does your cell phone know that there are 10 Wi-Fi networks available? It's because the Wi-Fi router sends something called beacon frequency. And the beacon frequency essentially tells your cell phones, your computers, I'm here, does anyone need me? And that beacon frequency seems to be transmitting a 10 hertz frequency. Now, our brain, the alpha brain waves, work at the frequencies which are between 8 to 13 hertz. Now, if you know anything about electronic war, you know that if you have two antennas transmitting on the same frequency, there will be interferences. So if the Wi-Fi router transmits on 10 hertz and your brain works on 10 hertz, there will be effects. And we see it in our case. We brought into the Supreme Court evidence of over 200 sick children in only 6 schools that we checked. And we didn't even check them thoroughly. And the symptoms that were most common were the cognitive symptoms, and I can attest it to myself. Different types of radiation affect me differently. When I'm in a Wi-Fi environment, one of the strongest effects that I have, it's cognitive effect, was when I got sick and my ex-husband talked to me, I could not understand what he was saying. I had parents contacting me because their children, who were actually gifted children, suddenly the teacher would call them and say, your child cannot follow up what's going on in the class. So there were very strong cognitive effects. Now, I don't know if that would explain it, but that could be one of the explanations. And there are actually a lot of studies that show that the 10 hertz frequency is especially difficult for humans, and that would explain it considering our alpha brainwaves work on the same frequency. Now, there are other things with the Wi-Fi that might be a problem. The Wi-Fi router is supposed to provide access to a lot of users at the same time, and the way the Wi-Fi router does that, it keeps on jumping between frequencies. It's allocating different frequencies to different people. So there's constantly a lot of frequencies that are going on there. And this is something that was not studied. What is the effect of so many frequencies in our environment on our body? As Jeremy said, our body is an electric being and is affected by electromagnetic frequencies. And so if there's suddenly so many frequencies in the air going on, that will affect us. And it's also another thing that the Wi-Fi does, which is the same thing. It's actually jumping between frequencies for that reason. And that creates another pulsing effect because your nervous system constantly feels things that are changing. And anything that is changing is more difficult for the nervous system to tolerate. And probably a simple example would be a fluorescent light. There are many people who react to fluorescent lights, and the reason is that they're flickering. So things that are flickering, things that are not constant, are more difficult for our body to tolerate. So those are some of the reasons why Wi-Fi seems to be more of a problem, and that's why we're seeing an epidemic of sickness in children in schools, headaches, nauseousness, vomiting, cognitive problem, anxiety, children coming back from school, like, not tired, it's beyond tiredness, it's sort of an exhaustion. We see children with noise sensitivity. This is one of the most common symptoms we found amongst those children is noise sensitivity. They just cannot tolerate noise. So there's, and you see it everywhere. And a lot of parents are dismissing it. Oh, it's normal, but it's not. And we had schools, it was really interesting. We had a few schools that suddenly one mother put a notice to the other parents, my child has been having these symptoms for the past 3-4 months, headaches, nauseousness, stomach aches, whatever. Within minutes, We had 2 schools like that. 70 children from 3 classes said the same thing about their children. So, and we could correlate it to change in the radiation in those classes. We had a school with 3 classes where they added a second router in the class. 5 children fainted in 2 weeks, and 77 children suffered symptoms. So this is going on every